Alright, buckle up, folks. We're about to dive into the mind-bending, twist-laden world of 20th century boys. The one manga that'll make you question everything about your childhood, your friends, and your entire sense of reality. This story, it's like someone took a Rubik's Cube, twisted it a few thousand times, and said, how about we make this into a psychological thriller with global conspiracies, evil cults, and a bunch of nostalgia? Yeah, that's 20th century boys for you. 1. Kenji Endo. The guy who just wanted a normal life, but got stuck in an apocalyptic thriller. Kenji Endo is your average dude. Well, average except for the fact that he used to be the leader of a childhood gang and is now struggling to keep his convenience store afloat. He's the kind of guy who probably thought his greatest problem would be running out of ramen noodles or getting a bad review on Yelp. But nope. Instead, Kenji gets caught up in a conspiracy that spans decades and could end the world. How did this happen? Well, turns out, a childhood game he played with his friends has come back to haunt him in the form of a global cult trying to destroy humanity. Oh. And the game they created? It was a blueprint for the apocalypse. Classic, right? Kids playing superhero fantasy, and it turns into a supervillain's wet dream. 2. The friend. Who is that behind the mask? Now, let's talk about the friend. The ultimate puppet master in this whole mess. He's like the evil version of a superhero, except his superpower is manipulating everyone around him like they're characters in a sick game of chess. The friend is a mysterious figure, masked, faceless, and basically the most dangerous thing since, well, ever. Here's the catch. The friend was once one of Kenji's childhood friends. But as with any good psychological thriller, he decided to use that bond for something far more sinister. He's created a cult that's on a mission to end the world. And Kenji's long-lost friend is leading the charge. The only thing scarier than the friend is realizing that you might know who he is, but you're too busy trying to piece together the puzzle to notice. 3. The power of nostalgia. Childhood games become a blueprint for world domination. Here's the twist that'll make you question every childhood game you've ever played. 20th Century Boys essentially turns those innocent games into a weapon of mass destruction. The game that Kenji and his friends used to play, a game full of ridiculous names and ridiculous plots, ends up being eerily similar to the actual events that unfold in the story. Think of it as if you and your friends were playing cops and robbers as kids, and then, decades later, a group of supervillains started using that exact game to take over the world. But the truly wild part? Kenji and his childhood friends were so good at the game that they created a roadmap for disaster, and forgot about it. They were like, hey, let's pretend to save the world, but it turns out they actually wrote the blueprint for the world's destruction. So yeah, talk about not knowing what you're doing when you're 12, huh? 4. The villains. From cult leaders to literal clowns. Let's be real. 20th Century Boys isn't just about Kenji. It's about a sprawling cast of characters. Some of them good, others way too good at being bad. The villains in this story are as bizarre as they are evil. We're talking about a dude who literally wears a clown mask while plotting to take over the world. What's that about? A clown who's also an evil mastermind? I mean, you can't make this stuff up. And don't even get me started on the minions. They're the type of guys who probably got kicked out of an underworld gang because they were too weird. These guys are like a mix of cultists, conspiracy theorists, and actual supervillains, all with an obsession with a mysterious figure in a white mask. They're like the weirdest, most dysfunctional Avengers you could ever imagine. 5. The power of friendship, with a very twisted spin. One of the central themes of 20th Century Boys is, of course, the power of friendship, but let's not kid ourselves. It's friendship with a side of betrayal, murder, and mass manipulation. The story revolves around a group of childhood friends who grow up and slowly realize that they've been dragged into the most epic game of life or death ever. Sure, there's camaraderie, but there's also guilt. There's also realization. There's also the horrifying realization that maybe your friends weren't the good guys you thought they were. Oh, and did I mention that one of Kenji's childhood friends is actually trying to destroy humanity? Yeah, friendship at its finest. 6. The time loop. Because why not screw with the timeline? If you're not already confused, hold on to your seat because 20th Century Boys also messes with timelines. There's time travel, alternate realities, and parallel universes. Sometimes you feel like you're reading a history book, other times it's like Inception but with more death and less explaining. Who's in control? You won't know until the very end, assuming you can keep up. 7. The Lost Decade. The dark side of the 70s and 80s. Now, you might be asking, why the 70s and 80s? Well, 20th Century Boys is a love letter to nostalgia. It's all about the things that we think we left behind. Those childhood memories we assume are innocent, pure, and untainted by the harsh realities of the world. But the truth? The 70s and 80s were a breeding ground for a lot of the chaos that would unfold later. The youth rebellion, the punk scene, the rising global tensions, it's all part of the backdrop to the madness that is the Friends' ultimate goal. 8. The message. Don't trust anyone who wants to save the world. In the end, 20th Century Boys isn't just about fighting evil or solving conspiracies. It's about questioning everything. Don't trust anyone who claims to have the answers. Don't trust anyone who says, "I'm the good guy." The ultimate moral of the story. No one's perfect. Not even the people you grew up with. Especially if they happen to be plotting to end the world in some back alley cult meeting. Conclusion. The ultimate thriller of friendship, betrayal, and nostalgia. 20th Century Boys isn't just a manga. It's a mind trip, a roller coaster, a journey through time, evil, and friendship so twisted you'll have trouble telling who's really good and who's really bad. So if you want to be reminded that your childhood games might have turned into the next world-ending conspiracy, give it a read. But remember, some memories are better left forgotten. And by the way, if you ever find a mysterious masked guy who claims to be your friend, you might want to question it.